Well, hello my little beauties, it's David Connolly, the web developer extraordinaire. I want to do a super quick video, and I want to just clarify something. I had recently published a video entitled Agile is Bullshit. It's one of the most positively received videos that I've ever published here on YouTube, and thank you very much for the likes and the comments and all of the positive feedback. That video left two questions. The first question is, where, oh where are the Agile evangelists? I knew that this would happen. The moment you call them out, well, they're nowhere to be seen. I guess they're too busy selling certificates. Anyway, we knew that that would happen, right? But the other thing that's been on my mind is that if not Agile, then what? Now, I'm not going to drag this one out. We can make this quite a short video, but I just wanted to clarify my own position with regards to that, because I do not want to criticize anything without offering a solution. So, to be clear, what I was saying in the last video, and it's your 10-second summary, I was putting forward the case that Agile is based on, I don't want to be so dramatic as to say a pack of lies, but let's just say that the opening premise is a false premise. You go to any Agile conference, any book, any YouTube video, and they'll start by talking about waterfall. In my video, I went into some detail and I made the case that this is not reality. There is no waterfall. There's literally no such process that exists, either by name or by description. Any developer who has ever worked like that has the very special title of unemployed developer. So Agile is based on a false premise, but then I went further and I explained how the key sort of source material, let's call it, the foundational source material, I think is the phrase, from Agile, was actually stolen from somewhere else. And I gave you the book. It was a book called The Toyota Way, and that book was published by a gentleman by the name of, or written by a gentleman by the name of Jeffrey Leiker. So that was the video, and the response was incredibly positive. But there is a legitimate question, well, if not Agile, then what? I think it was kind of obvious in my last video where I was going with this, but I'll just clarify for the record. The principles that Agile stole from the Toyota Way are good principles. I would even say they're common sense. Things like frequent communication with the client or the buyer, things like having flexibility and not having a crystallized sort of structure or endpoint, that's good. Things like prioritizing minimum viable product before documentation, all of that stuff is good, and some of it even crosses into common sense. So I'm actually all for all of that stuff. The only difference is, I don't think that you need to attend a conference and buy a certificate to do that. So I believe in just returning to the original source material, that being the book that I have already mentioned. So that's pretty much what I think, and it's pretty simple. So you can have all of the good stuff from Agile, but you don't have to call somebody a Scrum Master. You can just call them an IT manager. You don't have to have a stand-up. Instead, you could just have a meeting. The English language is perfectly capable of assigning words and phrases to all of these things. We can get rid of all of the marketing bullshit. While we're at it, maybe get rid of a few ridiculous job titles. And together we can get stuff done. The good news is, and as I think here, I'm just realizing, we don't have to speculate about what good IT management looks like. Here on YouTube, there's really fantastic footage. If you search for Steve Jobs brainstorming with Next, you can search for it right now, and there's incredible footage of Steve Jobs managing and interacting with his own team of programmers. And you can go watch how he handles stuff. All of that is gold. My advice for anybody who's booked into an Agile management thing or an IT management course, Cancel, cancel, cancel. Just watch the Steve Jobs videos. It's all there. It's all there. And that is the blueprint. Now, I don't know much about Steve Jobs as a person, but I think he was an incredible IT manager. That's actually what he was. That is the blueprint. Follow that, you know. Now, if I'm going to add anything of my own on this video, and I kind of hesitate to do that, but the only little sprinkling that I would add on, which is possibly from me, I'm sure I'm not the first person to say this, but it's something that I feel quite strongly about, is that I take the viewpoint that the CEO should know about IT. I don't think it's acceptable for the CEO of anything beyond a Wilkes stall to not know about IT. That does not mean that the CEO of some company has to go coding 10 hours per day. I'm not saying they have to write any code, but there's certain fundamental knowledge that all business owners should have. And if they don't have that knowledge, it's downright irresponsible. I don't care if you are Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney. You should have a foundational knowledge of IT. And what does that mean? It's the basics. What languages does your organization use? What are the pros and cons of those languages? What database or types of databases are used within your organization? Who hosts your intellectual assets? So what happens if a meteorite lands wherever your organization is? Is the website going to go down? You know, these are the basics. What happens if the developer gets struck by lightning? Who owns the intellectual assets in the first place? That's another. Now, these to just about everybody watching this video are the basics, but you would be astonished at the amount of business owners who don't know the basics. I was with a guy, and shall we name him? I'll save the naming for another video. But he was the CEO of a very, very large corporation, and I mentioned PHP, and he responded and he said, "What's PHP?" And I said, "Well, it's just the language that runs your entire organization." He says, "Oh, okay." And this is not good enough, you know. Business owners should know about the basics of IT, and that's that. That's pretty much the only thing that I would add. So that's all I've got for you. We can take the good stuff from Agile, but we don't need to call it Agile or anything. You don't need a certificate. It's actually pretty straightforward. I hope this was useful. If you found this video useful, click where is it? Is it here? Click this like thing. Would you do me that favor? Would you do me that favor? And if you really want to help out, please do consider subscribing if you haven't done so already, or leaving a comment. This stuff absolutely helps. I mean, as soon as people do that, things happen. So I'd really appreciate if you could. That is, if you enjoy listening to an alternative voice that's thoughtful, caring, compassionate, contrarian, and sometimes with a little giggle on the side. But maybe not today.